What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass cylinder breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams. As always, I'm joined by Shannon Times.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And speaking of movers and shakers and glass cylinder breakers, I brought back Ieshea Hollins to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So glad to have you back on the show. So Ieshea is a trailblazer in digital forensics. She also is a public speaker, and she is now a novelist. So she wrote a book called Technology Guide to Divorce. So we're definitely going to talk about that throughout the week. So definitely continue to tune in. But it's amazing to have you on the show. I don't know how we keep booking you, to be honest with you. So
because I love you guys.
We greatly appreciate that.
Sure.
But we're definitely gonna get into all that. So we're gonna talk to you about the show. We're gonna talk to you about the upcoming symposium, as well as we're gonna talk to you about your upcoming podcast. So definitely tune in throughout the rest of the week to hear all those great nuggets. But first off, we have a topic for today's episode. So I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. This one's from Ars Technica. It was written by Dan Gooden, and it's Chinese state hackers infect critical infrastructure throughout the US and Guam, right? So China's at it again, right? Like we always have issues with China where they're trying to, steal intellectual property or, put some malware somewhere, trying to gather evidence for stuff, you know what I mean? But this time, what they did is they have a Chinese government hacking group, right? And they got a foothold inside critical infrastructure environments throughout the US and Guam. And the reason it's important for Guam, right, is its geographical prominence, I guess you could say, right? So Guam is one of those places where, it's a territory that we use for doing things out in the Pacific militarily, right? So the thinking behind what they're doing, right, is that they're trying to get ahead of the game so that if something does kick off, because if you're paying attention to the news right now, like China's out there testing waters, you know what I mean? They're out there, playing around in different areas, contesting, different country hoods and stuff like that, saying, no, that's still China, all the different things that they're doing. But what they're doing here, though, this group is tracked by Microsoft, right? And they track them under the name Vault Typhoon. They've been active for at least 2 years, and what they're focusing on is more espionage, information gathering for China, right? So what they've started to do is they've started to do these things called living off the land attacks. Okay, so living off the land attacks. So what this really is, just to put it in a nutshell, it's more or less. So most of the time when we bring stuff to you guys, it's some type of malware or ransomware, right? Some type of software that's put onto a system. Well, living off the land is them using things that are already native to a system, right? So something that may have a vulnerability on it, right? It's a matter of them exploiting that vulnerability, but not by putting software on, but by using scripts and things of that nature, right? So it's called living off the land attack. And this is what they're doing, right? So what they're aiming for here mostly is mostly Soho devices, right? So it's just small office, home office devices, so things we have in our home, right? Our own routers and modems and things of that nature, because it's easier that way. Because I hate to say this, but most people that have their own their own routers, they don't pay attention to them like they should, right? They let the firmware go out of date, all these different things that are easier to exploit. So it makes it an easier target for China to kind of gather information, right? So they just use those resources. So this is kind of what they're getting into doing, right? And this is kind of a big deal right now. So like we already know China is out here doing this stuff, but even though Microsoft is in on this, right? There was an advisory put out and it was jointly published, right? And this is all the organizations that jointly publish this. This is how you know it's serious, right? So CISA, you got US Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, US Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, right? Australian Cybersecurity Center, Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, New Zealand National Cybersecurity Center, and United Kingdom National Cybersecurity Center, right? So we got some major players in there that are dealing with this, right? That's how serious this is. But China's out there. I hate to give them credit, but they're being smart about this, right? Like they're not going after the big dogs, right? They're not going after, DOD where they have the firewalls and these routers and all these things that are protected better. They're going after, the common man and woman that just aren't taking care of their home networks, and it just makes for a softer target. You know what I mean? So, Ieshea, what's your thoughts on this?
Oh, Shannon, thank you so much. That's great. Yeah. So the thing is, we've already heard, right? We're going after this cyber war, right? That we've been discussing for years and years, right? Them attacking critical infrastructure. That again, that's the first place they're going to start, right? We already identified that. I do find that it was very strategic. You're going to already use vulnerabilities that are already in the system, right? As soon as I read or heard about this particular breach, I began to remember, you guys remember back in 2015, how Lenovo had laptops that were coming out of the factory pre-infected, right? So it was like, oftentimes we'll sit and we'll think, oh, this is not possible, or how are they using their automatically some of this stuff they're aware of, because we don't know as the common consumer, you don't know, or you don't think to check your particular devices for vulnerabilities. Where are they weak? Am I at risk? Am I the man in the middle, right? Like, am I being used as that man in the middle? And then even after that, and not to just throw Lenovo under the bus, but then Lenovo it was done again in 2022, right? They had another 100 of their laptops that came back out. So when you begin to think about, like, how do we get in front of some of these things, or, how is China able to do it? They're actually playing off of just our inability to just look sometimes. They're looking where we're not, it's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like both you pretty much hit it on the head, right? It's not much more for me to add, but it's kind of like cheating off the test. Like, they already have the answers. They already know what is vulnerable. So you have to put this one on the consumer, like, to be honest with you. In my opinion anyway, because the manufacturers are going to eventually remediate, push patch, and things of that nature. In this case, those state actors are already aware of said risk, vulnerabilities, things of that nature. So if the consumer is not pulling the patches, is not doing a remediation, or the product is end of life and they need to get rid of it, then what else can you do? Like, there's not much more that could be done in this case. If anything, you have to educate the consumer, let them know, like, hey, you need to be doing these things. But at the end of the day, that's not their focus, right? They just want to jump on the internet. They just want to do the thing.
So you're right, but like, we already know the consumer is not gonna put that time in, right? They just want it, just like you said. They want, can I get to Facebook? Can I get to Twitter? Can I get
I'm good to go?
Whatever it is, right? Like, I'm good to go.
Right.
But the reason this is a little bit harder, right? Because when you do the attacks like this is not necessarily, so like, say you have a somewhat smart user, right? What are they going to do? They're going to be like, well, I have antivirus for that. Well, antivirus isn't necessarily looking for this. It's looking for something foreign on the system, right? It's
Right.
not looking for that script that's running on there that's doing all these things, or necessarily the network traffic that's being generated for things that are going out of the system, right? So antivirus, your normal antivirus isn't necessarily looking for that. There's other things you have to do that the common person is not really thinking about. And that's kind of where they're smart on this. I hate to give them credit, right? I feel like I'm giving credit to more of these criminals than I should. Like,
To the criminals.
They're getting smarter, and I'm like, I gotta give them their due. But that's kind of where it's different,
But then who owns the notifications, right? So think about if you bought your car and there was a recall or there was a problem, right? Your particular car factory or the car company, they're going to send you a letter and tell you, bring it in and we'll do blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So where does the responsibility reside, right? Is it, I know that I've sold X amount of machines, and so therefore it's on insert Best Buy, right? Like, we send out a notification, hey, we are aware of, right? So there's due diligence still back to, is that the factory? Is that the big box store that's selling those things? Or is it just, again, back on the consumer? Every now and again, if you purchase it, you do need to be mindful or cognizant of, what am I looking for, right? We have to get out of that. It's okay that I buy it, but I don't necessarily check what I'm using, and it's okay that I remain ignorant to some of the things that are going on out there, right? Because you cannot take that China has a government hacking group that is using vulnerability. Why are we even sharing the news, right? That they're doing it. So if we can tell you that these are the loopholes and this is how they're doing it, then what's the next step?
Right. Maybe it's mandatory registration, which I hate to say because that flies in the face of freedom, right? But when you purchase a vehicle, you have to register it, right?
That's right.
And then you receive that letter. I just received one for my my wife's car. And in this case, it's crying wolf. It's telling you that there is a problem that we cannot fix yet. We're working on it. Like, stop sending me that letter until you have the fix. But in this case, like, let's say you purchase core infrastructure, I guess. So you're buying a switch, a router, or an endpoint device of some kind of substance, right? So maybe you're not registering. But even your fridge is smart nowadays, right? So even that would have to be mandatorily registered. Like, okay, I bought this thing so that way I can get notifications. But then people are going to say that's Big Brother watching me, right? As opposed to like Big Brother protecting you.
That's right.
So there has to be some kind of, I guess, concessions made. But at the end of the day, I hate to say it. Like, I don't want to be the like Shannon says he's the Patriot guy, right? I don't want to be Shannon in this case, but I think that there has to be some sort of process to let us know that you have these smart devices in your home, and now we need to push you updates and notifications, and just like you said, this is a letter in the mail, maybe like, hey, did you know that your fridge is susceptible to X, Y, and Z, or your in my case, it's about a washer and dryer, right? Which are smarter than me. Hey, these things have issues, and then you need to, or you can trick the consumer. I hate to say that too, but you can make it where you cannot get the app until you register. That could be the loop that ties this all together. Like, if you want, because I can use my washer or my dryer until I download the app, and I could not do the app without getting the key from the inside of the washing machine. Like, there's like, to keep people from being able to steal your or be a man in the middle, they make you use a specific key that's on the inside of the glass door, and then that forced me to register it, and then that allowed me to download the app. So there's some smart things that need to probably be done here, but we say all that, none of that's being done, right? No one cares enough until something big happens, right? Where you have like a botnet that takes down a DoD facility that's made up of IoT devices or something like that. That's when there'll be regulation that'll come in. But no, I thought this was a good conversation. So definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics. Wednesday discussion. All week we have Ieshea Hollins on the show, so definitely tune in for that. We're going to go over her book. So she's an author. Now we're going to go over her upcoming symposium for the month of June. And then we're also going to talk about her upcoming podcast. So definitely tune in throughout the week for all that good information. Hit us up by the website's name. We're now on Heroes Media Group. So if you want to go over there to listen to us, but we're still on all the major podcasting platforms that you've been listening to us on. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, and Twitter. And Ieshea, where can people find you?
I am also, you can find us at www.direnzic.com, or we're on LinkedIn. I am Ieshea there, also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
There you go. You have an upcoming symposium that we're going to get into later on in the week, but we'll make sure to put that in the all that good information in the links that are associated with the show wherever you found us at. So that way you can click on those. I also have an upcoming webinar. So it'll be my first professional webinar. That is on June 1st, over GBLA safeguard rules. So look for that link as well. Please tune in for that. And then Shannon is off the map. He's off the grid, so you won't be able to find him. But if you would like to speak to Shannon, leave me a comment and I'll pass it to Shannon. I'm the man in the middle. But definitely continue to tune in. Thank you for listening to the show. Stay safe, stay secure.